Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. Today I want to talk about all the qualities that make up a great 9.8 to invest in. So first quality of a great 9.8 is it features a top iconic brand or iconic heroes. And the way I try to think of this, like what's iconic, what's not, is, will this brand or heroes be around in like 50 or 100 years? If so, they're probably pretty iconic, I would say. So again, into some specifics here, we'll go through a list. Spider-Man. Yeah, I think any big Spider-Man key issues, hard to miss on in a 9.8 from an investment perspective. I'll even include like Miles Morales key issues in here, Ultimate Fallout 4, and even Venom in the kind of Spider-Man category. X-Men or Wolverine, next one here. Definitely iconic heroes. Certainly, you could probably even say like Wolverine and X-Men. I think Wolverine has almost surpassed X-Men in popularity, and certainly almost can't go wrong on any sort of Wolverine key issue or X-Men key issue in a 9.8. So I think they're on the iconic list. Batman or Superman. So I'm, DC, I kind of stick with Batman. I'm kind of a Batman guy. I don't really like Superman that much. But those are the two iconic DC heroes I think you can absolutely think about investing in comics, in Batman or Superman comics. Star Wars, yeah, absolutely a huge brand, I think. Disney purchased kind of Lucasfilms, I think it was like 5 years ago or so. So certainly there's going to be a bunch of Star Wars content, billions behind Star Wars. In the next 10 or 20 years, there's going to be a lot of Star Wars content. I think Star Wars is going to be around in 50 or 100 years for sure. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Transformers, and G.I. Joe. Kind of these really popular 80s brands, I think are still pretty iconic. There's still a lot of content coming out with these brands, and I think they're definitely investable, I would say, in 9.8 comics. So those iconic heroes that we just went through, that's pretty much my entire collection is sort of based around those themes. There's a few other popular niches I think you can consider as well on top of these iconic heroes. Frank Miller, Daredevil. So many great key issues in that Daredevil run, Frank Miller. I think it's really heavily collected. That's a cool niche to consider. Jim Lee key issues. So early Jim Lee covers and keys I think are really cool to collect and investable in my opinion. A cool niche. McFarlane and Spawn. Yeah, so I'm a big McFarlane fan. I got a lot of early McFarlane covers in the 9.8. I think those are super collectible. Spawn key issues as well. Big niche there to collect and invest in. Sandman. I think anyone you ever talk to that's read all the Sandman, they're just super into it. It's got a really big cult of following. And Batman Beyond as well. Yeah, I'm a big part of this cult of following for Batman Beyond. And Batman Beyond #1 has just trended up so nicely as a book to invest in. So I think that's a popular niche to consider. Maybe not iconic, but some of these niches sometimes are worth considering. Okay, so that's the first quality of a great 9.8 is you want it to feature an iconic brand or superhero. Second quality of a great 9.8, you want to prefer heroes over villains. And I would say this is probably like 95% of the time, heroes over villains for most investable key issues. So something like an Ultimate Fallout 4 or New Mutants 98 or like a Spawn #1 newsstand or Transformers #1, G.I. Joe #1, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. Wolverine Limited Series #1, just, featuring big iconic heroes, big key issues with heroes. You almost just can't go wrong. There may be an exception for this one, like a Batman Adventures 12, I do think is probably one of the best 1990s 9.8s to invest in. Harley Quinn being a villain. Maybe she's like an anti-hero though, so you can kind of go either way on that. But I would say 95% of the time, heroes over villains when you're just thinking about like really high quality 9.8 comics to invest in. Okay, third quality of a great 9.8 is it's cold. So what do I mean by that? It's cold. I mean there's really no current hype or there's no shows coming out or there's no movies being speculated on or anything like that. Yet the comic book is still trending up in price. So a good example of this one, I think, is an Uncanny X-Men 121. One I am lucky enough to have. So this one about 3 years ago, I purchased this one for about $550. Recently there was a sale for $2,300. So a pretty great investment, I would say. And for this one, when I purchased this one, I wasn't like, oh, I just read an Alpha Flight thing. Maybe there's going to be an Alpha Flight movie, or I didn't like hear a rumor of Alpha Flight. The only reason I bought it is because it's a great, awesome key issue from the John Byrne, Terry Austin era. It's a great one in the 9.8, pretty decent 9.8 ratio. Not too many of them out there. Awesome cover to enjoy. First full appearance at Alpha Flight. Like, that's the reason why I bought it. It just stands on its own as a great collector item. And over time, I've done really well on it. So, you know, I'd much prefer a book like this than, say, you know, like some of these Kate Bishop books right now where, you know, the Disney Plus show is out right now. There's some demand and hype being generated for Kate Bishop. Kate Bishop, probably in 50 to 100 years, probably won't be around. Maybe they end up giving her a huge push, and she is, but I think Spider-Man and Batman have a better chance of being around in 50 or 100 years than Kate Bishop. So, you know, that's the kind of book that I would sort of avoid in the current environment. And even like that Sam Wilson first as Captain America book, that one's really cooled down from when the Falcon and Winter Soldier show was on Disney Plus. And I think the Hawkeye books, you know, that similar is going to happen to that. Like in 6 to 12 months, there's going to be a new Disney Plus show that everyone's excited about, and the Hawkeye books are really going to cool off. So for me, you just really want to go after a 9.8 that stands on its own, that has big iconic heroes, but is kind of cold. Like there's no real hype or anything. Then you're going to get it for a fair price, and you got a really good chance of it just kind of slowly but steadily increasing in value just based on the fact that it's an awesome collector item. Okay, and the fourth quality of a great 9.8 to invest in is you want to have the facts on your side. So the way I think about this one, having the facts on your side, is you want to, when possible, invest in 9.8s that have low 9.8 ratio. Those have really trended so well over time. And the lower the 9.8 ratio, it kind of correlates to price. So like an Amazing Spider-Man 300, of all graded copies, it's like 5.8% of them are 9.8s. Only 5.8% of all graded copies are 9.8. For an Amazing Spider-Man, really low 9.8 ratio, really tough one to get a 9.8 in. That one's $6,100. We just documented one that had sold in a 9.8. Like a few other books that have really low 9.8 ratios that I think are just great investments in the 9.8. Amazing Spider-Man 238, first appearance of the Hobgoblin, that's a pretty low one. A single digiter. Avengers 196, first full appearance of Taskmaster, that's a single digiter. That one's kind of cooling off from when, you know, Taskmaster was coming out in the Black Widow movie. So that one's, you know, tempting me right now, currently, actually. Batman 428 is a cool Batman key issue. That's probably one, I'm pretty sure this is like the lowest 9.8 ratio of any Batman key issue in the 1980s. I think it's like 10 or 11%, which is really low. Batman books don't really get into the single digits in the 80s, not that I'm aware of anyway. And in the modern age, like a Teen Titans 12, first full appearance of Batman Who Laughs, that one's really tough for a modern book in the 9.8. You got to sort of compare the 9.8 ratios within era. So anything Teen Titans 12, it's like 25% of all graded copies are 9.8. That's really fantastic for a modern book. Ultimate Fallout 4. This one's really tough in the 9.8 as well. I think that's one of the big sort of underrated reasons why this one in the 9.8 has really just exploded. I think they're about $3,000 right now. That Guardians of the Galaxy #1 from 2008, that's like 23% of all graded copies are 9.8. So a low 9.8 ratio on that one. It's great, you know, when you can have the facts on your side, and plus, you know, you have an iconic hero, heroes over villains. When you put them all together, it's just, those are great 9.8s. Another way you can have the facts on your side is by having newsstand editions. Newsstand editions are more rare. They're much tougher to get in a 9.8. Basically, a newsstand edition went to convenience stores and grocery stores and stuff like that. They didn't go to the comic shops. So they were held by handled, I guess, by, you know, stock clerks and people that didn't know nothing about comics, whereas all direct editions were handled by comic store owners. So newsstands are much tougher to find in a 9.8. The values in newsstand editions have trended up better than direct editions as well. So that's just another way, if, you know, budget permitted, if you were able to spend a little bit more on 9.8s, that's a way that you can get the facts on your side and just have more rare newsstand editions of certain books. Would be a good way to go. Okay. So yeah, I think normally on the channel here we kind of recommend like individual books, but I thought, you know, today just to kind of generally talk about some of the qualities that you want to see in a really good 9.8 to invest in. I thought it was worth a video for sure. All right, team. Thanks so much for watching, as always, and I'll see you on the next one. If you're liking my content, please subscribe and hit that bell, and I'll keep you updated on future videos.